lighting with fire. Now this is another one. We just dealt with candlelight, then we moved on to an oil lamp. Now we're dealing with like a bonfire. So the first one I'm going to kind of look at is the billiard room in Greatest Game Ever Played. Now, the emotion of the scene is very stark. So I lit it that way. It feels so, like, it almost feels like a boxing ring where there's only the light over the billiard table and then sketchy kind of scrapey lights that are illuminating and bringing up the walls from above. I actually hung a whole grid up above and I added little dado sources that streak the walls. But there's fire in this scene. So let's kind of show the scene and then we're gonna dive into, once again, where I place my lights to augment it and what are the cool kind of firelight effects I used in this scene.
To do to the Americans what Alexander did to the Persians. Lay waste to them.
I'll need a partner, someone to share the workload with.
My thoughts exactly. Young Wilfred here's your man, top amateur in the British Isles.
Delighted, old chap.
All right. Now let's start to look at this on how did I create that firelight? Well, it starts with reading American Cinematographer. I was reading an article on Allen Daviau, and he was shooting Van Helsing, and he had this crazy idea of taking bulbs, like photo floods, and dipping them in half CTO, quarter CTO, full CTO bulb dip. So Roscoe actually had this paint that you could dip the bulbs in it, and it was the exact full CTO, half CTO, and quarter CTO color. They actually did it on blues too. Full blue, half blue, quarter blue was this paint, right? So he dipped all these bulbs in the CTO, and then he created this Medusa. Now, this is my version of the Medusa. Those are actually mic, kind of gooseneck flex, mounts. And I put the bulb on the end of it, dipped them all, and then you can make the fire as wide or as tight as you want. And this is how I lit the scene. Okay, there's our wide shot. So you can see the fire in the background. I wasn't able to hide the Medusa in the frame. So if we go to the iPad, I wasn't able to hide anything down here in the wide shot. So I had to have the real fire actually work. So as we did our little dolly, you can see this very kind of almost boxing ring style light on the billiard table. This is all coming from these practical lamps that the production designer got for me, which was absolutely beautiful. Then I hung on a grid up above here, I hung these dado scallops that come down and highlight the walls. But because I wasn't able to augment the firelight was not enough to expose or do anything in regards to rimming Harry Vardon. So his whole head and body just sucked into blackness. So I had to hang another dado up top here that would come down and kind of back top light him so he didn't just fall into blackness. So once again, the fire cannot do the job. You're having to do and emulate and hide sources to be able to pull it off. When we go to the next shot, this is the Medusa. So the Medusa is down low and it's working its magic. When you see that scene, you can see the flicker is happening really beautiful on his face. It looks very realistic. And it's got the nice undulation. And this was all put into a flicker box. So the Magic Gadget is this incredible flicker box. It has all these different toggles that you can set up to be able to create firelight. They actually have 2 different firelight settings. So we found one that felt realistic, and that's what we used on the Medusa to be able to do this dancing light. So now we've kind of talked about Firelight, and we talked about how this Firelight was this Medusa thing, but this was 2004. Now it's 2020. What am I doing differently to create Firelight? Well, I started to analyze fire. So if you imagine fire, it's really hot in the bottom, and then the flames that wick up are super hard because it's the single little flames. So what I thought is, what if I can create a firelight source that's hot on the bottom and then has really hard sources on the top? And that is what I call my trash can light. So I take a 35-gallon steel trash can, I cut the whole front face of it, I put a 2-light fay in the bottom because that's the hot source of the fire, and then up top I put these 2 molettes. So it's a 1K molette, bare bulb, and they dance up at the top. So hot fire on the bottom and really hard shadows, bare bulb shadows on the top. As a cinematographer, you're constantly being asked to emulate sources. So, go down that rabbit hole, really investigate what that fire looks like, and then say to yourself, okay, how can I create that? How can I emulate that source?